gentlemen, welcome to it.
Good morning to the folks. What up to the youngins and bless up to the world.
And then Jay just put your info on blast like that.
It's what the people want to know, bro. My bad.
Nah, bro.
The highest of juice. Are we on? I'm sure.
We on.
You hear me?
We on. I don't know what Jay's talking about, but we on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to it. It is the Morning Shake with me, your host, Xavier Hendricks. And of course, it is Monday morning. However, we started on a whole different time. There was a bunch going on, and we had to shift up the time. Apologies for that, but I know a lot of you guys watched the show afterwards anyway. But we're going to keep it going. We're going to keep it moving. Glade, I don't know if you could check that EQ on this microphone, please, homie. If you can get that fixed, that will be dope. If not, it's fine. We can see how we move along.
Yes,
but ladies and
sir.
gentlemen, of course, I'm not alone in the studio. I am accompanied by my trusty co-host, Mr. J. Paris.
Good morning to the folks. What up to the youngins and bless up to the world. Thank you so much for joining us. What do we say we're going to call you, bro?
Nah, bro. That's anti. I don't want that.
Warm-X.
Not Warm-X.
Nah, bro.
Nah, not
Agent
That's
Warm-X.
only on the Whensday
Agent
Warm-Up.
X.
Agent X. Prof.
Yeah,
Prof.
Prof.
Costa calls me Prof.
Prof. Yeah, bro. It's
dope.
We cool?
Yeah, we dope, bro.
Dope. Yeah, it's an honor and a privilege, broski. Monday morning, not the usual time, but better late than never.
Better late than never, and we got to keep it going. But beside that, bro, a lot of people watch afterwards anyway, so you might as well have something there for somebody to come back and check it out. Then, of course, we're not alone in the studio. You can see by now the shot is open. We got Mr. Miller. I don't know what you guys call him on the Wednesday show. On the Wednesday Warm-Up.
You just got it, bro. Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller.
What's happening? Good morning, top of the morning, top of the afternoon, and top of the evening. Thank you so much. Man, it's a vibe here on the Monday, on this Monday show. So I'm excited to see what you guys have in store for us. And
How was your weekend?
I had a beautiful,
you
beautiful.
know why I'm asking?
Nah, I don't even.
Because we were together, so we had an awesome weekend. Jay, don't you think?
Yeah, now we
I heard you guys had a cold weekend.
It
Hey,
was
that's-
icy cold. It was icy cold.
Yo, bro, why is it so cold these couple of days, though? It's like -1 and stuff like
Because
that.
we had a cold front. Bro.
But bro, it's never been so cold. I
Climate
don't know.
change.
Maybe it has. But I don't know. Anyway,
Climate change.
climate change,
Ozone layer,
ozone layer.
all of those things.
Thank you. What's that actor from Titanic that does this climate change?
Leo DiCaprio.
Leo DiCaprio. And of course, you heard a voice, and it's none other than our Wednesday warm-up host, Leandra. I don't know what you guys call her. and today she's wearing a hijab.
No, this isn't a hijab, guys.
No Salah running down the way.
No cultural appropriation on this show. We condemn it 100%. This is not a hijab. This would be
on.
considered a turban, if anything else, but it's
Yeah.
mostly just a scarf.
It's mostly a blanket.
So, exactly, it's cold.
Which is
It's
much
cold.
needed.
It's
100%.
cold.
But you don't ever bliss.
Jay and Aldrin are doing the right thing. They are growing their hair. But Xavier, I don't know about you, so I have to do
And the
something.
hair helps,
I
bro.
have to
No,
do
I'm
helps,
sorry,
something.
I am growing my hair. Look,
I come
not a
on.
brushy.
So
helps
don't
to have
hate.
long hair.
Don't hate because
Gals
I'm
for the
doing the
gals.
right thing.
Gals
But
for the
good
gals.
morning, everybody. For those who are watching in the morning, hello to you. My name is Leandra Booysens, and I am here for the comments.
Come on. Come on.
she's here to add comments. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so it is an interesting topic today. Look, there's so much being going on. We've been talking, lockdowns. Are they working? Are they not? Are they causing more damage than they are good? We're talking vaccines, a lot of backlash coming from vaccines, people who are complaining that there's a lot of side effects, a lot of other issues going on. We're talking the things that people are afraid to talk about, because what's happening is there's a particular narrative that mainstream has to push. I don't know who's sitting on the top of that mountain forcing everyone to push the same story. But the reality of the matter is that there are stories coming out where people are like, hey, hold on. This is not what's happening on the ground. This is not what we're dealing with on ground level. Are lockdowns working? Are they causing more damage? Like I said, a lot of people are saying that they're causing more job loss, they're causing anxiety, they're causing fear, they're causing a bunch of stuff, as opposed to actually causing stopping the spread of the disease. Some people are saying that we might as well just go back to normal and just act as if it's a cold or a flu and just try and manage it that way. Some people are saying the hospitals are not the way they're saying it is. Some people are saying that it's not what the mainstream is telling us that it is. And we on the floor, obviously, we're seeing different elements, we're seeing different styles, we're seeing different things going on. But at the end of the day, these conversations need to be had, and people need to actually be talking about it. So, and that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Also, how have you been coping? How are you getting through it? How are you keeping the main thing in your life? How are you focusing on your work, your dreams, your ambitions, your goals throughout this negativity? Because there's a lot of negativity, and it's frustrating to try and power through it while there's so much untidiness in the air.
But we also thank God for the president moving us to level 3 last
Last
night
night,
on the
yeah.
news. So that means we can open church again. We can open church
well,
again.
look,
People can
50,
do.
but
50% of the capacity.
No,
50 people.
50 people, and if it's
a small venue, then 50% of the capacity. But again, the science doesn't
make sense there. 50% of a small venue.
Yeah, that's right, bro.
Yes, no.
Because if a venue only
small.
has 50 people, it's gonna be packed. If you
the
now go
capacity.
with,
So then
with
you
the
must
50,
have
so-
50%.
so you'll have
Which is
But-
25.
25.
But
yeah.
but then the space between us is still the same if you have a 4,000 seater and you have 2,000 people. Is that not the percentage the same?
yeah, obviously nah,
So then
I
what's
agree.
okay? I don't know. Anyway,
Let's move on to the next.
let's move on. Let's move on to it, yeah. So we've been speaking about what we've been doing, what we've been coping with, but Leandra's got some interesting stuff there that she might have to just jump in on.
From the
Come on.
onset.
Just
Come
toss her
on.
over.
Yeah, no,
in-
I'll be the one to do it.
Just be the toss her into the deep end there.
I don't mind. I don't mind.
you be
I
the-
signed up for this.
So you've been looking at what people have been getting up to out there in Australia. And,
Yeah.
There's some backlash for lockdown. People are not vibing with the whole lockdown issue.
So it's actually globally we are seeing mass protests happening. People who are anti-vaccines, people who are anti-lockdowns, people who are anti-masks, and so forth. A lot of people are saying that it's unconstitutional, and not just only in Australia, like New South Wales and Melbourne, but also here in South Africa. We've seen it this past weekend at Sea Point in Cape Town and Fourways in Johannesburg. There were people standing with placards saying no to vaccines, freedom, freedom. This is unconstitutional. So a lot of people are fighting against it. So we dealt with the lockdown issue. A lot of people, all these groups have come together. They've like amalgamated their causes. So for instance, like there's lockdown, people who are anti-lockdowns, people who are anti-vaccines, people who are anti-masks, wearing masks and so forth. And they're saying that these people are saying that no longer are you going to blind us. And I was watching this one thing in Sea Point in Cape Town. The SABC was doing an interview. Allegedly it was the SABC who was doing an interview, and then you just hear people screaming, fake news, like SABC is the SABC who's buying you, basically, like who's buying you out, who's paying you, because they're saying that mainstream media does not cover the truth. They cover like the
Whatever
bare
they're
minimum
told
of
to
what
cover,
they
yeah.
told to cover. So a lot of people are standing up in protest against this and saying that no longer are we going to be sheep. It's the buzzword now, the sheep. You will see it all over the place. Even internationally, people are saying that we are not sheep. We are not blinded. We are not
That's
just
good.
following
Yeah.
what mainstream media is saying. Because when we look at the statistics, and the thing is, what's funny to me is that when I also check the statistics, it's not as if the statistics are not there. It's
there.
just that people don't want to go look for it. So what they do is it's like I always say to Xavier, and having studied linguistics myself, I understand how you would structure wording and how you would structure language semantically. In order for it, you are saying the truth, but you are also covering the truth. So it's like you need to read between the lines, and a lot of the times I feel like we aren't doing it. And like I was saying to you, when you hear about premiers and prime ministers and presidents right across the world, Bill Gates, when you listen to
Not
them,
mentioning any
when you
names.
listen to them, you if you don't like pay close attention, you'll miss it.
Yeah.
And not necessarily because you are dumb. It's because you've already been brainwashed so much
So you
that
just believe what they tell you.
So it's like your brain is skimming over the things that they want you to skim over. It's like, no, but we said this.
And latching
for
onto the
instance,
things that-
if you look at the stats, it's like the death rate is at 0.05% in South Africa from COVID. But what you seeing, and we're speaking about it now, anxiety, but what you see is
Almal dood.
Everyone is dying around us. Everybody is dead. That's why we need a strict lockdown. And people are saying, no. How do you justify the numbers with something so severe that is taking a knock on our economy, that is taking a knock on our well-being? The reason why they were protesting, I was reading the comments. Like I said to you, I'm here for the comments. So I was checking these posts and I was going through the comments, and this one guy, I think this guy, there was a protest in Sydney, and I think this guy is the organizer, because he was like, he came for the people. He responded to every comment. I just want to say, kudos to you for the dedication. You literally
And you need to be dedicated for that. That thing can be draining.
You took the time to respond to every comment. And when I was reading the people's comments, most people say the same thing, but he had a different response to the same thing.
Wow.
And he came with facts. So he was saying, okay, you are saying 1, 2, 3 and the other, but you all sound the same. You kind of sound like our premier. That's what he was saying. But let me tell you what the facts are showing. And I'm not saying that I agree with him or that I disagree with him, or that I agree with the protest or that I disagree with the protest, because I do believe that we need to be cognizant of lives at the end of the day. If we shift the focus from self to us, I think that we will get out of this. But the thing is, don't be ignorant. So when I was reading what he was saying, and he mentioned, he made a few examples. He's like, if you look at the situation in Melbourne, Australia at the moment, people have lost their jobs, people have lost their houses, they're living in their cars. The situation is dire. And Australia would be considered a first world country, if I'm not mistaken.
It is a first world
and
country.
that is first world country. Now you come to South Africa, which is a third world country, right? Considered a third world country. And we have one of the most severest lockdowns since the beginning, like since March last year.
In the world, yeah.
We've obviously, it either the severity of it either increases or decreases depending on whether there's a spike or not. But if you look at what's happening in Melbourne, and those people are losing jobs, they're losing houses, they're living in cars, the suicide rate is increasing. We're speaking about anxiety, mental health. People are not coping because of these severe lockdowns. And I feel like you're trying to deal with one issue. You're trying to deal with the issue of the virus increasing. You want to nip it in the bud. You don't want that to happen. But at the same time, it actually has detrimental effects on everything else that's happening around you. And it's not achieving what you have intended for it to achieve, which is to nip the infections and the rise in infections. It's not doing that.
But now,
because then I want to ask you, if that is happening, show me the stats then of the numbers that are decreasing. Because every time we hear there's an increase, then the vaccine somewhere, then it's more than enough vaccines. On the 1st of September, guys, we're going to be going for our age group. It will be eligible for the vaccines. Let's make a party out of it, for those of you who are going. But so like in that sense, right? So there's the vaccines. There's an increase in vaccines. Hip, hip, hooray! An increase in infections. New variation.
Yeah, so
I think
it's not making sense, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing I wanted to say now. What Leandra was saying is that the issue is that the story, the goalposts keep shifting. You've ever heard the phrase, the goalposts keep shifting? So every time we get closer to an answer, I know now there's different variants. I know now the vaccine doesn't work for that variant. I know, so now we must change because now we must go for another jab because the variant is different. I know. So guys, hold on. This sounds like a not so well thought out plan that you guys have come up with here. Get the vaccines, we snip everything in the bud, we carry on with our lives.
Yeah.
We get the vaccines. I know the variant is changing. I know people are dying from blood clots. People are dying from water around the lungs and around the heart. I know people are dying because they went to go take the vaccine. I know this person went. There was nothing wrong with them. After the vaccine, they died. This person went. They're 25 years old. There were no underlying issues, nothing. Facts. They died. So now all these stories are starting to surface to the top, to the point where the US government wants to now sue Facebook for allowing people to tell their stories online. Yeah. They're saying, no, kill the people's stories, they remove it and take it off. Yeah. How can you kill my story that is legitimate, something that happened to me, bruh? I'm just telling you something that's happening to me. I'm not making up a story or being a conspiracy. I'm telling you this happened to me. But now, because it doesn't fit in the narrative of
what they're trying to push,
exactly.
Then now I delete that thing. What do you mean delete it? It's my story. If I told you another story about myself that had nothing to do with this, it was going to be okay. But now, because it affects what you guys are trying to do, now it's not okay.
Doesn't it sound like when you break something, and then you try to fix it yourself? Say, for instance, you break the toilet, and you're not a plumber. You don't really have an understanding of the of toilets
Trying to fix
or
it before your
plumbing,
parents get
right?
home.
And you try to fix it, and you make it worse. I feel like that's what's happening at the
Chip is
moment.
on and things.
Hey.
Like the people who had to fix the situation, they made such a mess of it that the water's coming out from all parts of the toilet
And
at the
now
moment.
people
And
are
now
not
they don't know
quiet
how
anymore,
to.
so,
Now it's like, just bring more, insulation tape. Just bring more insulation tape. So now you're sitting with a situation where it's
Duct
masking tape, duct tape, insulation
tape.
tape, whatever, Now you're sitting with a toilet that's like barely
me-
holding on. You can't use the toilet anymore.
For me, it's like, I don't know, but I've watched a lot of conspiracy theories growing up. And my dad did a lot of research on the end time and research on Illuminati, Antichrist and all of those things. And now, at the same time, these things, like stuff that I watched years ago already, like suddenly now it's starting like to make sense. Like you said, population control. The world leaders are saying certain things. They're giving us truth, but hiding something else. And now you look at all of these things like technology, Netflix, you look at your cell phone. All of these things are created in order to keep us occupied from what's currently and actually happening behind the scenes. And that is why like these things become our idols and stuff like that. And now all of these things are like making sense, and I'm looking at it, and we go into these different lockdowns, we go into these different restrictions and stuff, and now these things are supposed to help us, but they're actually not helping, because suicide rates are increasing. Like Leandra said, people are losing their minds,
Losing their jobs,
losing their
jobs,
livelihoods, all of those things. And now it's like, you know what? These things, these conspiracies that people spoke about years ago are actually coming to light. And
But
it's going even to the point where like people, especially the ones with biblical reference, it's like these things are happening, bro. And what are we doing? Like people, and this thing gets to me. And I told Jay this over the weekend. Like there's people that are actually telling you the truth, but because you are so fixated in your idol, fixated in your life, Netflix and all of these things that are keeping you occupied, then when someone gives you truth, you reject it. You're like, let me not focus on this. I would rather
But
like
here's
put
the
on a
thing, bro.
movie or something.
What's your suggestion though, bro?
Wait, before we go to the positive side of things, because
Not even positive. The fact that how can I say, there is a virus. There is a virus, and we obviously you just made mention now that these things aren't working, the restrictions and so forth on. That's why I'm asking, what is your suggestion?
so here's
If
the
you were
thing.
in Mr. President's
Okay,
seat,
go. I can tell you what I would.
I
What
also
is
can
your-
tell you what I'm thinking, but I do believe that we should get to the solutions at the end, because
Yeah.
that's what we.
Yeah, because-
I
Yeah.
first want to cover, like, because I feel like if we put it out there, like, okay, we only say that, okay, so we're talking about lockdown and whatever, and what is your suggestion to that? I feel like it's bigger than that, so I think that we should cover the.
Hey,
whole
bruh,
entire
it's
story.
a deep one.
We should
Because
cover
I
the
can give you an
breadth
answer, bro,
of
but
the
a lot of
situation.
people will disagree with
It doesn't
me.
matter,
No,
but
it doesn't
it's
matter,
the
bro.
answer
It's
that you
cool.
have.
It's
Because
cool.
if my answer also,
It's
people
cool.
will say, it's irresponsible
No,
and stuff.
It's
which is
cool,
cool.
but-
I don't.
But
which
here's
is
the
cool.
thing, bro. Even this thing you
No,
mentioned.
I'd love to know, because obviously we so against,
Bro.
like, yo, they doing this.
Bro,
I'm asking,
here's the
what is
thing. We go
suggestion?
back to
what are you saying? What should we do?
Bro,
That's my
we go
question.
back to the thing that we had last week. In fact, I think 2 weeks ago we had it on the show. If I was the president, bro, I would follow what I believe in. If me, as a Christian, as a safe Christian, I go back to my foundation, bro, biblical statutes. I go back to those things. Go back to the Bible. What does it say when stuff like this is happening? What should we do? I would feed my people positive biblical truth and say, hey, instead of focusing on this, focusing on that, Matthew 6:22, focus on this, look at that. I will fall into that before I go anywhere else, bro.
Okay, let's go then to this. There was, apart from the biblical instruction, the thing is, it's not what should the president do, it's what the president shouldn't have done, because the damage is done. So I'm going to tell you what I've been seeing since the beginning of lockdown. First and foremost, and I know we sound like a broken record, but this is the reality of the matter. If the funds were distributed equally and
That's
in a
good.
proper manner,
Yeah.
let's go to the facts. Let's look at that. Let's look at the first stimulus package that was given. The, what do you call it? The emergency fund, right? Which was how much billion? 500 billion. 500 billion rand was given. So that during that severe lockdown, because we see that the infections went up after that couple returned from Italy. It started spreading. First and foremost, we kept our borders open.
But never mind that 2 people made millions of people sick.
So we kept our borders open. These people came into the country. There was no lockdown initially, obviously. And then there were people. And then again, Jay, like, I cannot trust a system that at the onset of this whole breakout, they say no masks and no gloves. Because this is the World Health Organization's advice to us. You could see from countries that had this, for instance, look at the situation in China. For me as a president, if I were president, Leandra Booysens as president, vote for me, 40-40.
Come on, 20-40-40.
Okay. If I was the president, right?
Yeah.
And I'd have my advisors around me, I'll say to them, look at the situation that's happening internationally. What did those people do? So, for instance, I know that in Asian countries, mask wearing it's before the whole virus
before
happened.
Corona, they were wearing masks.
They were wearing masks. In South Korea, it was because of the pollution. So there's a certain time in the year or like seasons where the pollution gets really bad, so they wear their masks, right? And they're strong on wearing masks. Then when people are sick, they know to wear masks. It's a culture thing. It's already ingrained into their culture. Yeah, by us, we made a joke out of it. I remember I made a video. You can go and check. I'm a conspiracy theorist, but you can go and check my YouTube and my Instagram. I made a video of this before lockdown even started. Amen. And I said to the people, this is what's happening in China at the moment, right? And these people have a culture of taking care of one another. Where if I'm sick, not with COVID, if I'm sick, I wear a mask to protect you. So because we don't have that culture within us, I feel like at the very onset, as the leader of a flock, as the leader of a country, that was your first priority, the safety of my people. You keep borders open. Okay, I get it. You were thinking of tourism. But tourism anyway took a big toll because you allowed people into the country. You didn't lock down when it was necessary for us to say, okay, guys, let us contain these 2 people before it spreads because we know that you can recover from COVID. Let us contain these people before they get in contact with anybody else or the people that they've already gotten in contact with. Let us contain these people. But because our systems are already so poor, there was no way that the president could take control of the situation. Then we went into lockdown and they said, okay, there's an emergency fund that's going to be for the citizens. What happened to that 500 billion? We still don't know up until this point. So now people come and they say, yeah, but what would you have the president do? Have you not been watching what's been happening over the past few 18 months? Have you not been watching the situation in our country? And you still say, stop blaming the president. What could he do in his power? What do you mean? What could he do in his power? The thing is, there's looting, there's stealing, and the reason why this is the looting, it's a symptom of the main disease. It's just a symptom. It's not the main issue. They make it the main issue. In the president's speech, he starts off with saying that I would say that these past 2 weeks have been a battle on 2 fronts. One being COVID and one being the looting. No, the looting is a symptom of COVID
of
and
lockdown,
of the lockdowns. It's not a battle on 2 fronts.
Actually, a lot of what happened is not because of COVID, it's because of lockdown.
So for me, then the very same people that support the president blame the people who were looting. I'm not condoning the looting because obviously you're making the situation worse. You are not making it better. But I'm saying that as the leader of the house, as the leader of the country, you should take authority. Now we must see you standing there and you sad and you downhearted. So people are like, yeah, well, what would you have done if you were the president? This is what I would have done. I would have not allowed my departments to firstly look the way that they look with incompetent people running those departments. I would not have these things happen. I would have
spit that word,
because now
you
get into a situation like this where you can easily become, and people are like, you'll never go back to colonialism. Really? Really, we'll never go back to colonialism. We basically owned. As South Africa, we are owned
call it
by
neo-colonialism.
whichever bodies that whichever bodies that may be up there in the first world countries, we are already
Okay,
owned.
so what would you say? 2 points. What are your major 2 points out of what
My
you would
major
have
2
done?
points is firstly,
Close the border in the beginning.
wait, before that,
Yeah.
I would have fixed my departments. Even before this COVID
Yeah, but
thing
that is
happened.
a ongoing
That's a-
issue. I mean,
would
that's
have
from
fixed-
1994 already.
I would have
issue.
fixed that
Your
first and
cabinet,
foremost.
yeah.
That's from after
When
Tabo.
if I were President Cyril Ramaphosa, I would have dealt with the issue at hand there first and foremost, and not make it about everything else. Right? I would
Go
have
to
fixed
the
the,
root,
situation there. The Zuma administration, now you want to blame the Zuma administration. Okay, blame the Zuma administration, but what did you do to fix that?
Because you were there
What did
long
you
enough.
do to rectify
so it's
it?
an internal issue already.
It's an
from the
internal
beginning.
issue.
What
and
was the
then I
second
would
point?
have, okay, fine, let's say we didn't have enough resources, or we didn't have the time to contain those people that came into the country, knowing because we knew that those people had COVID. It was a given fact that, okay, these people present with the symptoms, let us isolate them first before they get in contact
But did
with
they not
anybody
isolate
else.
them? I think they
They
did
were supposed
isolate.
to isolate, but then how did we open the border up again? That's my thing. We opened up like when every other country
Locked.
locked down. We were open. So that's my thing. Now we've got a situation where, and we were like,
That's
first
completely
we
out
were
of control.
worshipping the fact that, wow, our president locked down. God is good to give us such wise men.
I was against this thing
Wow.
from day one, though.
And then
Remember,
what happened
we
is
were
that
like,
we saw the
this is
situation is
nonsense.
like, then I would have actually used the 500 billion rand for what it was needed for, so that our
Facts.
people wouldn't have to be in the situation now where people are looting, people are losing their jobs and so forth, because there would have been enough money to sustain the economy, sustain small businesses, your lifeline. The country's lifeline is small businesses, SMMEs. Do you know of an SMME that got a payout?
People who asked for the payout didn't get. Jay, President, what do you do?
Nah, you go for first, but I
Alright,
asked
so-
the question, so I'm
Okay,
trying to.
so for me, bro, number one, what I would do is I would speak the truth. This is me speaking for myself. Remember, the inside show, the views that I share here is my own personal, private views. I do not think they're telling us the truth. I doubt it with everything inside of me. I don't think they're telling us the truth. Number one, I don't think the numbers that they're giving us are accurate. And I'll explain to you why I don't think it's true. Number one, the same dysfunctional government, the same people who are messing up SAA, messing up ESCOM, messing up Transnet, messing up literally everything they touch. They cannot manage, they cannot control, they don't know what they're doing. They just call a spade and not a garden utensil or something. No, let's call it a spade. Everything they touch, somehow, somewhere, ends in a golden handshake, ends in someone in jail, ends in someone being killed under a bridge at the airport, ends in somehow, somewhere that it just doesn't work out, right? So, number one, the same dysfunctional people that number one are not even, some of them are not even equipped for the job. I can give you another example how you know that they're not equipped for the job. When a tender comes out, somebody gets given a tender that has nothing, that doesn't understand anything. Let me make a practical example. Fire doors. When are we going to finish the hospital? We're waiting for fire doors. There's a company that says, here's the 10 fire doors you're looking for. We can finish the hospital. No, they want to now take that tender because of however millions it is and now ask one of the cousins or the family members, whichever corruption that's going on there, to say, okay, now go and start a company. Go and learn how to make fire doors. And then we're going to give you the tender because we're going to take half of that money. We're going to give you the other half. So instead of doing the right thing, remember we're speaking here about truth. Instead of doing the right thing, and whoever wants to argue with me that there's not corruption in the country, the president out of his very own mouth said it the first time we had family meeting. I think it was the second family meeting. He said, we're putting together a team to investigate the corruption and what happened to the money and where everything went. So he said it from his own. So if you want to complain with me here in the comment section, it's up to you. But he said it from his own mouth that we have an issue here and a problem here with corruption. So number one, we know that these same incompetent people are now all of a sudden, now guys, I want you to stop thinking about you being conspiracy theorists. No, be logical. Use actually your brain. Think for yourself just for 1 minute. Just entertain me for this thought for 1 minute. How do the same people that everything they touch flops. But these same people, all of a sudden, are giving you accurate numbers to the T on a daily basis. Every day. They're giving you proper numbers to say, this is the amount of infections. This is the amount of that. That is the amount of that. Today we did this. Today we did that. Overnight, the incompetent people, the same people, not different. It's not like they brought in a private company that was running their books well, that was doing. I mean, the numbers came out the other day of how many wards were basically audited correctly. Only 17 out of how many wards? Because of
it was like 280
because of the
wards.
corruption, the mismanagement, everything. Now the same dysfunctional people are now giving you accurate results to the T. Every single. Does that make logical sense in your brain?
Doesn't make sense.
The vast majority of the country sits there and they believe it.
Yeah.
Come on.
The vast majority of people, they sit there and they say,
wow.
Yo, het jy gehoor? Did you see the now? Nobody thinks to themselves, how those people last week they were incompetent. This week they're giving us accurate figures like this off the top of their heads.
That's good.
So number one, tell us the truth, my bro.
Yeah.
Tell us the truth. They couldn't even set up stations to do the vaccines properly in the beginning, bruh. How long did it take? After pressure from other people to start fighting to say, why don't you let people set up properly? You know why? Because they were busy looking for ways. How can we smuggle our family in here? How can we do this? How can we do that? Trying to find corruption ways
trying to find
to
ways
see
to
how
steal
can we
money.
do this thing. People were saying, why don't you let the private companies bring in the stuff because they have the ability to do it and so and so and so. No, wait. We in charge of this thing.
There was even a proposal from Discovery, which is the big insurance.
To say that we can bring in the things and we can do it professionally, we can do it properly. Clicks, Discovery, these pharmacies, this came and all this. They said, okay, right, we can take it. Then the people can come here because that's how they get their other vaccines. They can come here, like they come into shopping, they do their vaccine, and they go, no, there needs to be a control over it. And what frustrates me is that people don't think for themselves to think, nah, man, this thing looks a little bit suspicious here, man. This doesn't look right. How do you just accept things that clearly you know? So number one, tell us the truth. Give us the proper figures. We had a doctor in the studio not so long ago that said when they were saying on the news, the hospitals are full and that, he said, hey, I was working at the hospital. There were empty beds all over the place. This last one, I know it was full. We've been going to hospital. We saw that it's really full. But here's the other suspicious thing. Again, tell us the truth. You take my loved one. You put them into a COVID ward. You tell me I can't go and see my loved one. God knows what you all are doing inside there. I don't know. Heaven only knows what's going on. I don't know. It's my mother, my father, my loved one that's in there. I don't know what you guys are doing. Next best thing, you give me a phone call. No, we're going to put a respirator, what do you call that thing? A ventilator. The pipe they shove into your lung. Next best thing, no, we're going to sedate your loved one. I don't know anyone around this table or anyone I've ever come into contact with that's loved one survived being sedated and put onto a ventilator. I don't know. If
my mom was in ICU.
If there is, you can let me know. She was sedated, she was knocked out, and she was put on a ventilator. She recovered from that.
No, she wasn't knocked out. She wasn't knocked out, but like her vitals and stuff like that. She was just a miracle because she was literally, the doctors even told her that, hey, if you didn't come in tonight, we probably would have lost you.
So here's the thing. So they take your loved one, they put you in there. It's considered a COVID ward. You can't go in. So now, all you have is whatever the doctor tells you.
Or the nurse,
Or the nurse, whoever, and whatever they, and remember, they can shift the truth, they can bend the truth, they can tell you another story. You don't know what they're even telling you is even legit. You don't know if your loved one's mask came off in the middle of the night, if the pipes pulled out while they turned in the bed. You don't know anything, bruh. So tell us the truth, bruh. Be honest and be transparent about what's going on.
And how can a place where people are supposed to go for help when they're sick and actually that place in itself
is the headquarters of death.
I like what
you'd rather die there instead of dying at your house.
I like the experience that you were speaking about, bro. Regarding the different amounts that you pay for the vaccine. the full amount and then the half amount. Then I don't know. You were saying that you
Yeah,
were
so
speaking to
here's
that.
the thing. They say now we shove this thing up down your nose for a piece. I think it's PCR.
The
Then
one's
that's
not
gonna be
that-
850 rand. Then we're gonna put the one where you swab the back of your tongue. That's gonna be 350 rand. It's some different test. So I asked the lady at the counter. So now, what's the difference? Why is this one 350 and this one 850? No, this one is more accurate. So, but so now here's the thing. What's the purpose? So if I come there with a 350 and it's not accurate, what was the initial purpose of the test?
That test. Because I paid you money.
Can anybody answer me that question? Open to the public. Answer that question. What then is the purpose of the test if you, for a God-given fact, know this 351 is inaccurate and the 851 could be accurate? And then, just to cover their backsides, they put there on the bottom of this thing, if you test positive, then blah, 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 a whole synopsis of why it's positive and what you must do and blah, blah, blah. If you test negative, don't accept this thing as a negative because it could still be asymptomatic and you could still have this and this. So again, I ask,
And again,
what's then the point?
We are not responsible for.
Yeah.
What's the point of the test altogether? So there's so much inaccuracies and so many things. And to me, what frustrates me about the average human being, which I'm happy to hear people are starting to ask questions and push back, is that we just sit there, bruh, and we just say, yeah, ish, yo, hey. And we don't ask questions. We don't see the inconsistencies. We don't see the incongruencies. We don't see the things are not lining up. Things are not making sense. Don't wear a mask. Wear a mask. The mask is not working. Double mask. It's like, my bro, what is going on now? The things are not coherent. There's a level of incoherence that is beyond me. And my dumbfounded that we just sit there and we just say, yeah, it is.
Another thing is like you were saying, there's no coherency and things keep changing, and it's because this virus is new, right? So if you are going to rally behind the notion and the idea that our health experts and our government officials are doing the best in their ability to, save the world. With that same breath, if you saying that this virus is new, so that's the reason why we keep having to change our coping mechanisms, or, like for instance, the no masks. Then you realize, okay, now you need to wear masks. Then, okay, no more just one mask, double mask, no more material masks. You now need to get the KN95 masks, or you need to get so you've got all these things and it keeps changing. Then my next question is, so with the vaccines, if in the same breath it's a new phenomenon and we don't know what's happening, why are we so open to getting the vaccines? And when people speak out against the vaccines, why do we bash those people? That's also the next question that I want to get to. Like, if people are questioning the vaccines, let them be. If you don't want to,
you're going to inject something into my body.
Then you go
Am I
ahead.
not allowed to ask? And look, but what is this?
What is this? And that's the thing. Like,
And the fact that they say we're not responsible.
We're not responsible. Look here, if you
There's
start growing,
adverse- there
if you
could
start
be
growing an
adverse
extra
effects.
toe or extra finger, is not my problem.
And
Wow.
that's the
Bro.
thing. Like, I feel like, like everybody, this is my solution to all of this. I think that we should respect each other's decisions. I feel like we should respect each other's decisions. So, for instance, if I decide I want to get the vaccine and Jay doesn't want to get the vaccine, let us respect each other. Why do I feel superior if I want to get the vaccine, enforcing Jay to get the vaccine? That's my next question. Since when did we become the gods, the lords over other people's lives, and saying that, no, you
But
must
if-
get the vaccine because you are putting my life in danger?
No, you must have
trust
it. You
your
must have right.
vaccine.
No.
If the vaccine is going to work, I trust my vaccine. Why does Jay need to get the vaccine?
Even the mask. If you're wearing a mask and I'm not wearing the mask, then what's the point of your mask then?
Is it not supposed to?
Because is it not supposed to protect you then? So then wear your mask.
Facts.
Now what now? Because now if you're saying, no, it must be both of us, otherwise it doesn't work, then that means your mask doesn't work.
Then you must go.
Then you must double mask.
And then you can't breathe. Now we had a doctor on the show and the doctor said you actually restrict your you actually restrict your breathing when you wearing this thing on your face, because if all else COVID is the whole thing behind it is it affects your breathing. And you know that when you put that little thing on your finger that shows 86 there or 90 or whatever, if you have that, what kind of oxygen intake are your lungs getting? The whole day walking with this thing on your face. But anyway, let's get to the solutions. So I'm gonna drop one solution. Mala, you drop a solution.
No, I think we've given a lot of coping mindsets in this with this whole lockdown anxiety and all of that. We gave a lot of coping mindsets just for you to basically understand what is happening, to ask questions, start asking questions, do your research, check the conspiracies that were done before, look what are the world leaders saying about the one world order, population control, look at those things, start looking at those things, and then you start to understand.
I just say something? And when somebody has a different point of view, don't just brush it off as a conspiracy theory, because some of these things that you are calling conspiracy theories is actually what's really going on.
It's truth.
Stop calling things conspiracy. Think for yourself and go and look also for yourself, because some of these things are the real, and they like the fact that you think it's a conspiracy because they keep you in the dark. Anyway, bro, what do you have?
I just got a revelation on the show, but nonetheless, I think my number one thing in this lockdown anxiety coping mechanism is standing on the promises of God. Number one, fundamentally, we go back to where it all began, Jesus. We are nothing without him. And I think he gives us even the scripture, Matthew 6:22, and he says that the eye is the lamp unto the body. If the eye is filled with darkness, the body is filled with darkness, and the body is unhealthy. But when the eye is filled with light, the body is healthy. So that in itself is a promise from God and saying, hey, listen, if you watch what you intake, basically giving us a warning, watch what you take in with the eye, watch what you take in with the ear, because these things ultimately affect you. And what is the media doing? What are they feeding us?
They're feeding us crap the whole day and we're eating it.
Darkness.
Exactly my point. So that's one of them. I have another one.
Aldrin,
but we're going around the table.
I want to say based on what you said, that is such a key. That solution for me is it's like eye opening. It's excuse like the pun. There was no irony involved in that, but it's like eye opening. But because it comes from the Bible. Already people have shut that down. But let the philosophers say the same thing in a different way.
Or the scientists say it now.
They'll be like,
then it's like, scientifically proven that whatever you watch.
Look. But that's literally
Matthew
what scripture says.
6:22. Go and check it out.
So my first one is going to jump off that one. In fact, you jumped off mine because I told you in the beginning that was mine. But anyway, mine, I'm wording it a little bit different.
Like that.
I'm wording it a little bit different.
Yeah, look at Xavier now. He wants to be the philosopher. But Jesus already said that.
Restrict the intake. And the intake was obviously what you're feeding yourself. In fact, we did a whole entire sermon about, I had a bowl and I just put a lot of nonsense in there. And I said, this is what we're literally doing to our spirits. We're just taking in all this nonsense. Yeah. And then when Satan hits and we have our spiritual immune system is weak, that's why we fall for the lies and we fall for the deceit. Yeah. Because spiritually, all we've been taking in was this negative news and the new statistics and the new numbers and the new this and the new that, and go on to Facebook and you see rest in peace, and you go here and you see this and you see that, and all that negative information, bro, is weakening your spiritual immune system, and scientifically it weakens your actual immune system. So what your mind does, it releases a hormone called cortisol, and it goes throughout your body to say, guys, we need to shut down here. And things start shutting down, and your immune system starts working. And it's a coping mechanism
because your mind is trying to keep up with.
So what your mind does is in a moment of shock or it triggers. So then what cortisol does is it lashes out the hormone of what's that hormone that you can lift up things and you can run faster? And adrenaline. Yeah. It lifts the adrenaline, but it weakens the immune and it weakens a bunch of other stuff so that your body can cope. So that the whole point is to get you out of a moment of like fear, or like a car's about to bump you, your adrenaline shoots, you jump out the road, or something's about to happen, you get a fright and you move, So fight or flight kind of thing. So, but if you are fed like we have been for the past almost 2 years with a constant flow of negativity.
Darkness.
You can imagine what your spirit looks like now.
What your
And
body,
what-
your body looks
Everything looks like, and that's why when sickness comes, you don't know what to do. I'll give you a personal experience. My father shared their testimony yesterday with COVID. So my mother got it, right? Leandra also has her own experience. My mother got it, and he calls me on a Wednesday, that June 16th, on the youth day holiday. Calls me that Wednesday, says, "Hey, your mother can't breathe." Da, 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 da. I say, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" He says, "We need to get oxygen somehow. Phone one of your doctor friends, find out, if they don't have oxygen, if we can't manage to get something." I phone a friend of mine that's a doctor. I say, "Hey, brother, listen, man, this is the situation. Can you help me?" He says, "I usually at the Discams they sell these 2-liter O2s and emergency O2. Don't you want to go check at the Discam quick?" I phone another guy that's at the Discam. At the time, he said, "Nah, he's rushing to the Discam." I say, "Are you there?" He says, "Yeah." I say, "Okay, this friend of mine just told me check for the O2. He looks, he asks, he says, "Nah, they don't have O2. I say, "Okay." Long story short, my father says, "Look, we need to get this oxygen machine like now." I say, "Okay, fine." So now I make a plan. I remember the conversation I had with somebody that just got out of hospital and it's still on the oxygen machine. I think, let me just get a hold of him. I'm sure he'll have this machine at his house. And luckily I'm in the area where he lives, but I don't know where he lives. I know he lives there, but I don't know where his house is. I then try and get a hold of him. His phone is off. I try and get a hold of someone that I know knows him to find out, like, "Yo, do you have his wife's number or something? Let me just get a hold of him." Their phones are off. I then try and phone a bunch of people. All their phones are just ringing. Now I'm in panic mode because my mother's busy dying at the house. I need to hustle and make a plan. I'm in panic mode. And then my wife phones me and says, "Look, go to so-and-so's house. They'll know where he lives." I rush to their house because I know where they live. I bang on the gate with my key. This person's father comes out and says, "No, he's not here." I say, "Yo, what now?" As I get into the car, he phones me back because I was trying to phone him the whole time. He phones me back saying, "No, he was actually on the golf course near his phone." But what's wrong? I say, "Look, where does this man stay? Because I need to get to his house." He says, "Okay, turn at this road, you turn there by this house, blah, blah, blah. I know this is the street's name. I don't know where the house is." Just ask people there in the street. I rush to the street. I ask a bunch of people, "Where do you know?" They said, "Nah, it lives at this house." Go there. Hoot. Bang on the gate with a key. No answer also. Banging. I'm like, "Bruh, someone must be." At this point, I don't have a plan B. I don't know where I'm going to go after this. Because when I was driving, I was praying to God, like, "Yo, just guide me, direct me, take me to the right place." I have no plan B. I'm just going with what God is telling me to do. Yeah, his wife comes out. I run past his wife. She's like, "What's wrong? I'm like, "Where's he?" She's like, "No, he's inside. He's busy on the oxygen." When she said that, I'm like, "Okay, good shot." I run in. I'm like, now I need to ask him. He's sitting on his machine. I need to now ask him, "Yo, bro, can we use your machine?" Because I have no other plan now. He checks his oxygen with the machine. He sees that he's on 88, 90 almost. He says, "Okay, right, I'm still fine. I'll be okay. Take this thing and run." And someone take the meter. He gives me the meter. He gives me the machine. He says, "Just sanitize this thing because it goes up your nose and run." I throw everything into the car. I run. I go into the room where my mother is, quote unquote, COVID positive. I go into the room. I make sure I put this thing on her face. Remember, my father's sleeping next to her in the bed. I make sure I put this thing on her face. We get the oxygen machine on. Long story short, she recovers. I don't get COVID. My father doesn't get COVID. My sister came into that room. My kids came to greet my mother in that room. Now, here's the thing. The other narrative that they really do shove down your throat, even at funerals and things, where everyone's wearing these white suits, these hazmat suits, and they're treating it as if you're going to fall over and die, like it's like leprosy or something. There's a sense of, for me, that I don't believe that narrative because of my personal experience. I went into the room and I helped my mother. I touched her and everything. And I didn't get sick. My father didn't get COVID either. So to me, this fear-mongering of shoving this kind of constant fear on people all the time is problematic to me.
Do you believe that way set for all, though?
It may not be, but to me...
That's what happened to me as well. my dad is a chronic patient. My mom had COVID, but my dad didn't get COVID. He has a comorbidity.
But here's the thing: throughout this
A weak immune system, in other words.
but throughout this whole process, since the beginning of COVID, and you and I always have this conversation, I never made COVID a god in my life. And I feel like a
think
lot of
that's
people
the
made it
main-
a god in their
the
lives. A
main
lot
point.
of people highlighted
An
it in
idol.
their lives, and they made it an idol. And they were so scared they didn't go anywhere. They didn't touch. Jay and I, since lockdown started, we were moving up and down. Since lockdown started, we coming to work, doing what we needed to do. Since lockdown started, we were operating as if there is no lockdown. We managed to get the permit for churches and whatever, and we were moving because pastors could get one for doing funerals and things. We managed to get that, and we were moving, and we kept on moving. We didn't get sick throughout the whole lockdown.
I think again, what you believe.
What you believe and what you feed the whole entire time, it makes a massive difference. As much as people don't want to be spiritual, and as much as people don't want to, it's the truth. Take it from me, take it from Jay. And even when
I
we
tell
did,
people this with that point, people don't want to be spiritual and so forth. For me, it's a case of then walk away from your faith.
Yeah.
All in all, it's better that way. But I can't serve
You
Jesus.
can't take what you want to take where
Yeah.
it's convenient for you. You must take the whole package.
Take the whole thing.
and even when Jay and I did get some sort of symptoms, Jay told me, "Hey, bro, my nose is blocked, this, that, and the other." I'm like, bro, we're not gonna fall for this COVID thing. We're gonna push through it, bro. And then 2-3 weeks ago, I also told him, "Yo, bro, my nose is blocked. I'm getting this headache and blah, blah." But I told him, I'm not going to allow this thing to dictate to me how I'm going to live my life. And I carried on with my life. I didn't lay there and make this thing overwhelm me. Now it's not the same for everyone.
Yeah.
We have loved ones that did die. We had a funeral today of a loved one that died. But my thing is, a lot of times our loved ones go into hospitals, they get it there. Or a lot of times there's mismanagement there with the ventilators and the whatevers, and the people end up dying. So I'm just saying, think of the whole picture. Don't just push this fear of who. Think of everything and be logical and objective about how you approach it. So I don't even know how I got there, but I think restrict your intake. Watch how you allow what you allow to make that anxiety in your life. Watch your intake.
Yeah, Jay?
Yeah, for me, I want to speak about the person that may have lost a job or a salary rather, cut and so forth on. The Bible says, fix your eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. This is Hebrew 12 verse 2. It goes on to say, he endured the cross for the joy set before him. The fact that the Bible says this means that he did know what the joy was that was set before him. And I think most of the times we need to have the same approach. And I was speaking to Aldrin about it. The one thing that keeps me going through everything that's taking place is I read the last chapter of the book.
I know how the story ends.
I know how the story ends. So before I even start reading the book, I read the last chapter. I see that we come out victorious. We come out with victory, bro.
That's
come
right.
out winning. And then I start the book. And now when I'm reading chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, you might see, okay, you go through this, you go through that, this takes place. But you know the last chapter.
Already.
And because of that, you can smile through whatever storm might present.
Come on.
Coping from you?
So, yeah, no, I also have a personal experience with COVID. My dad had COVID, my mom had COVID. I think I did as well. I'm going to be honest, I didn't go test. I
Me
presented
too.
with symptoms, but I was like, I'm going to treat it like the flu. And thank God that I came out of it alive. My parents came out of it alive. I'm not saying that this is a blueprint for everybody to follow, because I do know that there are people, and, you know, like, you need to be strong mentally, but that also, like, I hear a lot of people saying you need to be strong mentally, focus on your mentality, you know, meditate and so forth to get your mind in the right space. But the mind cannot be in a right space without the spirit, because for me it's the same thing. If you're feeding your spirit certain things, like you cannot say, for instance, if you have a comorbidity or whatever, and you know that this is the situation, like maybe say, for instance, you have cholesterol, you know that certain foods create activates or makes it worse. You know what I'm saying? So you need to regulate your cholesterol levels by doing away with certain foods and then taking certain foods. I feel like that's the same thing with our spirits. You cannot now say that, okay, I'm gonna eat greens, I'm gonna do the right thing, but then you come here with fatty foods and I cheat day. You know what I'm saying? You can't cheat in this in the current situation that we are in. There is no cheat codes. There's no off days. So for me, what I did is I filled my spirit, and I think that for me personally, that's what helped me because instead of when I felt at my worst, the day that I was at my worst, that's the time that I forced myself to fill my spirit, because I know from experience with fasting and prayer, we subject the flesh.
That's good.
Through
That's
fasting. So I subjected the flesh. I didn't fast because obviously I needed to keep my immune system up. I didn't fast, but I remembered that principle, and I remembered, and I think I'm grateful for the fact that I have this teaching. And I know that not many people do, and it's different for different people, but for me, I filled my spirit. I subjected the flesh. The flesh was saying to me, this thing is getting bad now. I couldn't even get up at one time. I had such a terrible headache. But everything worked together in God's plan, because I got sick first, right? My dad was sick, but I hit hard. I hit the hardest first. But I made such a quick recovery for the time when my father was so ill, so that I can be in the right frame of mind. And based on my experience, knowing that God intervened, the first thing I did, I didn't panic. When I saw those levels, those oxygen levels dropping to the 60s, to the 50s, based on my own personal experience, and this is the amazing thing about God, everything in His perfect time. He puts the puzzle pieces together so brilliantly. You don't see it in the end. But He put the pieces together so brilliantly. And because from my personal experience, knowing don't panic, it says, be anxious for nothing. That is the scripture. So and it's easier said than done, and I'm speaking from
believe it or don't.
Believe it or don't, but this is what worked for me, and I see it in so many other people. Before I became anxious, I took my request to God. I said, Lord, you are familiar with the situation that we are currently in. You know my father's respiratory system better than what I do, or any doctor or scientist, for you created it. Every organ was crafted by you. It was crafted the way you intricately put those lungs together, and how you put it within its rib cage, and you connected it to the heart, and you connected it to the blood, and you connected it to the blood cells, and you know what blood cells he needs. You know whether it's red or white blood cells. You know whether, that's how I was thinking. I was thinking scientifically based on the research. I didn't know just, I wasn't ignorant about it. I did my research. I realized that you need B1 helps with the red blood cells that you need for oxygen, and he needs oxygen. So I did my research, and I was like, but you know better than any of these things, because some people get those things and they still don't make it, but you know the situation. You are the author of our faith.
You had faith with works.
I had faith with works. I put that into action. And the thing is, I don't just take everything that I am fed by the media. The media will tell you this is the situation. I heard about the hospitals where people don't come out alive, but I consulted. I said, Holy Spirit is the helper. You are the director. You are the advocate. You know things, Holy Spirit, that I don't know. You know the hospital situation. What do I do in this situation? I don't have the luxury of going out to go and buy an oxygen machine. We don't have the finances for that, like a lot of people at home at the moment. A lot of people who also lost their jobs. There's only one income in the house. You know what I'm saying?
No income at all.
Or no income at all. I was like, you know the situation better than anybody else. What do? I'm hearing people saying, don't take your father to the hospital, and clear instructions from the Holy Spirit, call the ambulance. Take your father to the hospital. And God had His hand over my father.
That's good.
Because what happened, other people around him were dying. And it's like we were saying, I also don't understand the thing of isolating your loved ones, where you come into an emergency ward, and whether you've got COVID or you don't have COVID, you're all sitting in the same room anyway for hours, days on end. You know what I'm saying? Now you want to isolate a loved one from a COVID ward, but you keep all patients
in the same foyer,
in one hall. Also that, it's too many questions, but I consulted. And God miraculously, there was no beds available for my father. He sat in a wheelchair for 2 days. He was deteriorating. I saw it. He started developing hypoxia, pneumonia. He couldn't remember things. He was repeating stuff. And I went into the car, and I warfared.
Come
I
on.
was like, I'm not accepting the narrative.
That's good.
I will not accept the narrative. I kept building because the flesh wants to be like,
Accept,
hey,
yeah.
girl, look at the situation. Make
This
peace.
is real life
And this
now.
this is what went through my mind. I'm like, I probably need to make peace. But I fought against it spiritually, like to a point where I
That's
was
good.
like, yo, guys, the people around me, like, because tears were running down my face. And I'm sitting in the car, but I'm fighting the devil, eh? I'm fighting
Slap
him.
him with the right.
The people walked past me. I didn't care how loud I was. I didn't care what I looked like. I didn't care if I looked like a mad person.
Like,
I
I'm
was
praying
like,
now, leave me
guys,
alone.
This is battle. This is a
is
battle.
war, yeah.
David did that.
This is war.
Yeah.
This means
And this
war.
is what I'm equipping myself for war. And that's the reason why I'm not afraid to shy away from this topic. Because I'm equipped for war. I'm equipped for
And
war.
you know what
I'm
it done
ready
for you.
it. And
Yeah.
I know what the truth is. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
the same thing is I will read through the scriptures, but I will also not keep myself ignorant from what's happening in the real life. And so you asked me what would I have done as a president. I would have probably developed or adopted the same mechanism or principle that the health ministers and the Prime Minister of Singapore adopted. So
Yeah.
what they're doing now is that, and I feel like they are giving they are relieving their citizens from the pressures of this COVID-19 demon that wants to suppress and that wants to oppress. Because what they're saying is that we are moving away from treating it as a pandemic, we are treating it as an endemic, so almost like seasonal flu. Right? Because if you look at the situation and what's happening, I was listening to the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, now the other day, and he
Yeah.
was saying that they are trying to secure vaccines up until 2024. This tells you that
That
they
we're gonna
predict
go,
that this is
yeah.
going to be an ongoing thing.
Gee whiz.
Now, are we going to stay in lockdown until
2024.
indefinitely? We can't. Economies cannot sustain that. So I like the approach that I don't know the full extent of it, but from what I read up on, I like the approach that they are adopting in terms of treating it as an endemic, so that life can go on, so that people can gather again.
That's
Because I
good.
believe there's power in gathering. I
Yes.
believe that isolation, and that's the thing for me, like mentally, if you are isolated, what it does to you. And I think many of the times people in hospital are also struggling with recovery because mentally they are weak.
Yeah.
Spiritually, they are weak.
Yeah.
All that you see around you is death and decay. You are weak. But if you can go in there, I made my uncle phone my father and I was like, please pray over him. You know what I'm saying? Now there's not even like the luxury of doing that anymore. So he says that they said the health minister of Singapore said that they're going to treat it as an endemic. They're going to open up the country basically. And people are going to get their yearly flu, like they're going to get their yearly vaccinations. And that's how it's going to be from now on. I'm hoping, I don't know, obviously our situation is very different to Singapore in terms of our infrastructure and so forth. But that's my solution. I think is my so to sum it all up, I said so much to say this.
Come on.
Guard your heart.
Yeah.
And for me, your heart and your mind, it's biblically it's the same thing. Guard
Yeah.
your heart above all things, for from it flows the things of life.
That's good.
So firstly,
Wow, what a
don't let
scripture.
fear, don't let anxiety cripple you, because that's what it does. It cripples you.
Did you
That's
give
why the
the
Bible says.
the scriptural
I
reference?
didn't give the reference.
I think
no.
it's Proverbs 6 verse 22.
Proverbs
Sorry,
6, 22.
23.
Come
Verse
on now.
23, Proverbs 6, it's in Proverbs, guys. Guard your heart above all things, for from it flows the things of life. So guard your heart against the narrative and the fear that is so rife in our world, you know. And like I said in that first video that I made in, I think it was January or February, that's when I made. You can go check my Instagram as well. That's Leandra_Booysens.
Yeah, man.
Putting the plug out there.
Come on now.
I made a
Shameless
video.
plug.
I made a video and I was talking about that, and I said, you know, equip yourself with the right information. Don't just go about believing everything that or the first thing that you hear. You believe it. That goes for us as well. Don't just take our word for it. Go do your own research. Stop being lazy. Do your research and stop spreading false information.
Yeah.
Nou gaan julle sê, ja, maar jou information is false. No, I gave you references. So go and check it out. Like, these are things that are happening in the world. Equip yourself with knowledge.
That's good.
That's for me.
Wisdom.
That is
Godly
the best
wisdom.
thing. And balance it out. Don't just like Xavier and Aldrin was saying, fill your eyes with darkness, for your body will be filled with darkness. Because if you receive all this negative information,
it's gonna
you know what
affect
I'm
you.
saying? It's gonna affect you. So balance it out. For me, the word is the best. The Bible
Come on.
is the best.
And I think I just wanted to correct that. It's actually Proverbs 4 verse 23.
Okay.
All right, okay, good job. All right, explain it like a
Good
to my
job.
Good
kids.
job.
But, Jay, anything from your side, bro, before we call it a day?
That.
Yeah, I think for me, bro, another thing is I hate sickness, bro. I hate sickness. I keep telling the gents that we were so broke growing up, we couldn't afford
Yeah.
Be sick, bro.
vitamin C and all
Yeah,
of these.
yeah.
You know, the families that have this huge cupboards with all these, and no beef against it. If that's you, that's dope and everything. But
God
we were
bless
so
you.
broke. We couldn't afford all of that, so we had to.
Facts,
Peace,
bro.
we had
Or
to-
even medical
and-
or
and-
anything,
and
something
we
happens.
could-
Hey, pray.
And facts. and my pops are so strict with sickness.
Yeah.
Still is like, if you have the flu or a headache or so forth, it's like, nah.
You're not sick. Get up.
Get up. What you so young and you have a headache? Like, nah, you can't have a headache. So I get afraid when I'm sick or I have a headache. And another thing, over the weekend, you know, the guys were together, and one of the main things I kept telling them is that place a demand on God's ability. Keep placing a demand on
That's
His
good.
ability. For me, I firmly believe in the fact that His mercies and grace are new every morning. And if His grace is new every morning, so is our health.
Yeah.
I can't wake up sick. It's impossible for me to wake up sick if His grace is new every morning.
Wow.
And I place that demand on His
Yeah.
ability, and that's how we remain.
How much?
God says actually, blessed is the man who reminds me of,
Of
my
my
promises.
promises,
And
yeah.
that's what you're doing. When you say that you're making a demand on God's abilities, you are reminding me of His promises. You are saying to Him, but you need scriptural backup. You can't just now go, Lord, I demand
No.
No, because it's not scriptural, you know what I'm saying? But
Remind
I
him,
get
yeah.
you. Like,
I wanna
you,
ask-
you promised health. You promised life. You promised 80 years, 70 years, 80 if you're strong. That is your promises.
Yeah.
You're making a
So
demand on
make
His
a
ability.
I want to ask this question. I asked this question to the doctor the last time on the show. How much? Okay, this question is two-part. Number one, how much of this sickness do you think would have been avoided? I'm not talking about avoided. I'm talking about wouldn't have been as bad as it is now. If number one, we as Christians believed the Bible for what it really means. And when I say that, I mean we actually do what the Bible says we should do. We don't just quote nice scriptures, but then when sickness comes in, be like, let me go for a test. Let me go. They said I'm positive. Now we go lay in bed and things and be scared about. Because the Bible says, no. That's not what we do. That's not how we operate. How much of it could have been avoided if we as children of God actually did? If we apply the word, like you say, we put actual demand on the word to say, hey, whoa, this is what we believe, and this is what we're supposed to believe. Now we all of a sudden are the same as people who have no hope.
Facts.
That's why the Bible says when somebody passes, we don't mourn as those who have no hope. We mourn because we know better. We know that, hey, this is not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like this. But now you going into the same pattern as the world. That's why the Bible says, do not be conformed to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
That's right.
But how many, how can I say, how many healings wouldn't have taken place if Jesus was with the
Now, bro,
patterns
with
of the
COVID,
world?
that's why I said I want to do a conference where all the COVID people must come, and then I want to pray for them. So because other than that, bro, then that means the Bible's a lie. That means Jesus is a lie. That means this whole thing just doesn't work. If I can't do that, that means this whole thing doesn't work. Because isn't it? For those who are sick, you shall bring to the elders, and they shall lay hands, and the sick shall recover. Otherwise, then this whole thing doesn't work. Wait, the second one is how much of this would have been avoided if the media didn't blow it up at all. Like if you never heard anything about COVID, it was never in the media, it was never on your Instagram, it was never on your Facebook. Do you think it would have been how it is now?
No, not at all.
Especially that the death rate is basically the same as a flu.
Not at all.
Not at all, bro.
I remember
They
being
predict
sick.
that there's more flu deaths in one country. I'll get
Than
the,
actually
the
COVID
reference.
deaths.
There's more flu deaths than COVID deaths.
And even the COVID deaths that they register as COVID deaths wasn't COVID. A lot of people die from other issues.
Underlying issues.
Yeah, but other things that they would have died from even
Without
if they
COVID.
didn't have COVID.
Yeah.
You were saying?
What was I saying? I completely forgot that I wanted to say, but I was saying that I remember being sick, and when I went onto my
Yeah.
cell phone and stuff, it was
Yo.
crazy.
Yo.
If you just see RIP, automatically
Hey,
you go
bro.
into that, yo, Lord. And I just had to stay off social media during that time.
Yeah.
But,
Social media detox you did, basically.
yeah.
So you had to
100%.
detox. So my 3 things that I did over this time was, number 1, I restricted the intake of negative information. Number 2, I filled my spirit with positivity. So I carried on with just filling my spirit with Jesus. And then number 3, I stuck to the dream. I carried on moving in the right direction. Because what also started happening, a lot of people got depressed and discouraged. And then once that happens, you start falling into that mode of, So even with church, as someone that's very involved in my church, and as the pastor of our church also, we kept saying, no, we're going to continue having church, even if it's online, keep coming. Even as a head of a team, I told the team, no, guys, nothing of stay at home and whatever, because a lot of people started becoming lazy and all that. We're going to keep moving. We're going to keep coming. We're going to keep doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're going to keep the energy, keep the momentum, keep the movement. And that helped so many people. A lot of the team members were like, yo, rah, if I didn't have something that was keeping me moving, I would have probably lost my mind. But at least I knew that rehearsals continue as usual, services continue as usual, even if it's online. Things just continued as usual. And it kept us all kind of that momentum going. And I think that's what kept me moving. I was watching the intake of negative information. I was filling my spirit with positivity. I'll listen to a sermon, listen to worship. And then also I was sticking to the momentum of where we're going here. So purpose, sticking to the dream.
I'd also like to say be responsible and think about the next person. So for instance, there's certain things that I don't believe in, and there's certain things that I question with regards to protocols and so forth. But for the sake of another person who does not believe the same thing as me, I will respect that. For instance, if say for instance, I don't believe, I still have questions about the vaccine. For the sake of another person, I'm doing my research to find out more about it. I'm not just saying that I'm not going to take it all together, which I'm not saying that I'm not going to take it. Come 1st September, I might be there, still doing my research and so forth. But I'm saying that for another person, wear a mask. Like, for instance, maybe you don't believe in wearing a mask, right? Maybe you think that this thing is all a hoax. But for the next person who doesn't, is it Paul that said there in the, he made mention of like,
So you must do something.
Right.
yeah,
just to
he's
make
like,
sure.
Yeah.
the eating and the drinking thing. He was like, not everybody believes, like, some of your brothers and sisters are weak spiritually, so they think that wine is, wrong.
Yeah.
It's a sin. He says, but maybe you don't believe that, and you spiritually strong enough to believe that, no, I can drink wine and it won't really do anything to me. But then he was saying that for the sake of that person, just don't do it in their presence. So I think that that's the attitude that I'm adopting. For another person who feels anxious and who feels frightened and whose faith is not on my level, or who doesn't have the same beliefs as me, I'm going to do something for the sake of somebody else, because that shows humanity and that is Christ-like. So I'm still going to go out and I'm still going to do things. I'm going to go to the malls. I'm going to go to the restaurants. I'm going to go to church. Whoop, whoop. I'm going to go. I'm going to go to work, and because I'm privileged enough to have a job. And for that, I'm giving thanks in what I'm doing in my lifestyle and the things that I do. But I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to sanitize. I'm going to keep my distance. I'm going to make sure that I stay safe for the sake of my parents, for the sake of my sister and my nephew, and for everybody else, for the sake of my family. So, yeah, guys, be responsible and think about the next person. I think empathy will carry us through. So
That's good.
Guys, we got to call it a day.
I think I actually had 5, but let me run through 3, but I'll run through it real quick. So the first one was obviously read the last chapter of the book. It shows that we win and so forth on. So when you're on chapter 1, 2, and 3, you'll know that at the end we come out victorious. Holy Communion, we spoke about this before. Holy Communion is so important because it brings about health, healing. It brings about all of that. And then another thing that's most important, even in this time with salary cuts and so forth on, don't forget to tithe, which is important because with tithing, you can put God to the test and remind him of his promises and let him know that, hey, I'm doing my part. This is what I did. You have to come through.
You have to.
You
Like,
have
remind
to.
him, you said this.
And he puts his word higher than himself, so you
100%.
can place that demand on his ability. You have to come through, and we know that he will.
Come on.
That's good.
Miller, closing remarks from your side.
I think I'm gonna jump on what Jay said. You know, when your seed is in the ground, the enemy he's unhappy.
Come on.
When your seed is in the ground because he can't do anything. You know, so we had a lot of recommendations. Basically, just go to it, get into it, and block out all the noise. Block it out. Stay true to the promises of God. Focus on the promises of God, and you should be Shabbat.
Hallelujah. Shabbat.
All right, okay, Libby, are you done?
I'm done.
Okay, I'm done. Also, guys, thank you so much for watching. I
just
know
wanna put in a song there, guys.
I know the show was on a different time, but thank you for watching. Thank you for staying in tune. Please do subscribe. We have passed our 1,000 mark, and so that's quite dope. We super fired up about that. We passed our 1,000 mark, and we are now moving over to 2,000 mark. So keep subscribing, keep liking, keep commenting, and see you on the next one, which is tomorrow morning with Dr. Carl. Do you know who's on there?
Yes, he's doing a book review tomorrow with an author. Let this mind be in you.
Come on.
So
It's good.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Go check it
All
out.
right, guys, thank you so much. See you on the next adventure. Love you. Bye-bye.
Deuces.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to it.
Good morning to the folks. What up to the youngins and bless up to the world.
And then Jay just put your info on blast like that.
It's what the people want to know, bro. My bad.
Nah, bro.